Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Part 5, Book 5, Chapter 5 of our literary adventure, reading the Odyssey by Homer. And today we are diving into Book 5. Hermes is sent to Calypso's island. Odysseus makes a raft and is carried to the coast of Skiria. Skiria. It's probably Skiria. We'll do a quick word recap. It's pretty straightforward. Myrmidons, some might say. Eteonius. I'm just gonna say it like that because it's fun. Bathoides, which I think is in reference to the place where this dude is from. Bothoids. That's a place, I think. Argive just means in relation to Argos, which is a city. Asphalian, which I'm sure is just a term for someone from Asphalia. Pean, so the AIE combination is, again, I guess, supposed to be pronounced with like a double E. Paean, so not Paean, but just Pean. A and the EI is, instead of E, it's more like an AY. Adothea. Couldn't find for this one Halosydney, but is apparently a sea god, an immortal, Halosydney. Instead of Guy, instead of GY, Gyrian, it's Juraian, so that's more like a GER. Juraian. Phaidemos, PH, again, that's pretty easy. Phaidemos. Sidon, which is, I think, another place, because there's Sidonians, so Sidon. Acoit is apparently just a regular English word for a bit of rope, or some sort of looped rope thing. Arsacides. So the CEI here, again, more of an SAY kind of feel. Arsacides, I think. Arsacides. Yeah, and that was everything from book 4. Not too many. As we go along, we're getting better. We're able to recognize a few things, and it's always fun when we get it on the first try, but as you know, when we don't, we write it down and we go back over it for next time. So that's our word review. Done. Let's do our part 4 review, what happened in Lacedaemon. If you remember from last time, it was just a whole bunch of just storytelling. There was 3 or 4 different stories being told throughout that chapter, but basically it picked up from book 3 when Telemachus, son of Odysseus, went to Sandy Pylos, just looking for news of his father there, and he runs into Nestor, his boy Nestor, and Nestor tells him, "Yeah, I was with him, but I don't really know what happened to him. But you go see Menelaus in Lacedaemon." And that's what happened in book 4. So that's what Telemachus did. He went to Lacedaemon and he spoke to Menelaus, and Menelaus told him a much more detailed account of his time with Odysseus, Menelaus, that is. And he told him, yeah, they were brothers in arms, essentially, and they were both in the wooden horse. The wooden horse at Troy. They were both in there, so it was kind of cool to hear a story about that. They were all in there trying to be quiet. And he told them about how Odysseus led them through that ordeal. And then he goes on some long-winded thing about how he escaped and Odysseus didn't, and he had to go and Menelaus had to go and make a sacrifice to some god, and he had to capture the old man of the sea. It was a really big, it was kind of like a tangent story. I don't even know if Telemachus was listening to it at all, because he was just crying about how his father was there. But essentially, after all that, Menelaus tells him that his father is is trapped somewhere on a hot, steamy, rainforesty, just kind of not nice place at under the watch of some malevolent present slash witch kind of person. So that's what he tells Telemachus. So he does, and Telemachus is he realizes, okay, I gotta go and find this island wherever he is. I think that's the sort of conclusion that he comes to, and so that was one of the many stories. And so a little sidebar, how I imagine that this is going to turn into a movie at the hands of Christopher Nolan. If you've watched any of Christopher Nolan's like original stuff, especially like his Time trilogy, Inception, Interstellar, Tenet, and just basically all of his other works, just how he manipulates time and uses it to tell the story, and how he's able to tell like multiple stories by manipulating time and the perception of time, and jumping for the most part seamlessly from place to place and time to time. And that's basically what sort of went on here, because while Telemachus was getting the lowdown from Menelaus there, they jump back to what's going on at the house of Odysseus in his hometown of Ithaca, where the entire population of the village is absolutely thirsting over Penelope, in just a very down bad kind of way, and just causing all sorts of trouble for Telemachus' family and his mom and the servants and the cattle and God knows who else. So they tell a little story there, and then Penelope, Telemachus' mom, Odysseus' wife, finds out that Telemachus has gone on this journey, and she's all upset. And oh my god, he didn't tell me. And while that's going on, then you've got all of the haters, the Telemachus haters, Antinous and his ilk. They are, like I said, thirsting, just absolutely consumed with the idea of Telemachus' mom. But they're also haters, and they want to put an end to Telemachus' journey, which I don't know why. They're just straight up haters. Haters gonna hate. That's just what they do. And then they plan to go and intercept him while he's, sailing about and jumping from island to island, I guess, and trying to find his dad. So that's what they do. So that goes on, essentially, as one of the little stories there. Yeah, so he goes there, and then, Menelaus tells a story about the old man of the sea. Telemachus says, no, I gotta get on my way. Penelope's at home, just trying to fend off just all the ruffians and scoundrels and scallywags that are just messing up the place, and then Athena, our friend Athena Bright Eyes here, who just takes the form of whoever is convenient. She comes to Penelope in the form of her sister and says, "Be still, child. Be calm. Everything will be okay. I can't tell you much, but everything will be okay. Go to sleep." And so she does. And then book 4, ends with Penelope just trying to get some info on Odysseus. Doesn't get it. And then the plotters embarked and sailed over the waters with foul murder in their hearts for Telemachus. These are the Telemachus haters. There is a rocky islet between Ithaca and the cliffs of Samos, quite a small one, called Asteris, and harbors in it for ships on both sides. There they lay in wait for him. So, as I was saying, I think it's going to be really cool to see how Christopher Nolan does the sort of time jumping, location jumping between things, because while all of this is going on, at least the first 4 books here, we now, I think, get a look at the perspective of Odysseus himself. Because the gods have, I guess, dispatched Hermes, the messenger god, to to the island, Calypso's island. Calypso is that witch, that malevolent force that is holding Odysseus prisoner. And kind of a spoiler alert here that they've got in the title, where he makes a raft and is carried to the coast of Scheria. Some slight Castaway vibes there. Not to spoil Castaway for anyone who hasn't seen that. Anyways, we are now jumping into this perspective of Odysseus and his plight. So here we go. Holy Christ. Talking. Well, let's just get to reading then, shall we? Here we are with Book 5 of the Odyssey by Homer. Hermes. Hermes is sent to Calypso's island. Odysseus makes a raft and is carried to the coast of Scheria. We're going to call it Scheria until we learn otherwise. Dawn rose from her bedside. Let's restart that just real quick. Dawn rose from her bed beside old Tithonus. And we've got a little asterisk here. Let's just get to that while we're still here. Eos, or Dawn, fell in love with Tithonus and made him immortal. But although he did not die, he grew older and older forever. Oh, okay, so this is a person, I guess. The dawn and so morning and night, they're actual gods. Okay, that's pretty cool. Dawn rose from her bed beside old Tithonus, bringing light for mortals and immortals both, and the gods came to their morning session. There in his place was Zeus Almighty, thunderer in the heights, and Athena made them a speech about Odysseus and his troubles, for she was concerned that he still remained in captivity. Father Zeus, and all you gods everlasting, and blessed, from this time forth, let no sceptred king, let no sceptred king be kind and gentle, let none have justice in his heart. Let him always be harsh and act the tyrant. For none of his subjects remembers that noble prince Odysseus, who ruled them like a kind father. Now he lies wretched and miserable, Calypso's prisoner in her island, and he cannot return to his native land, for he has no men and no galleys to carry him over the broad back of the sea. And now again they want to murder his beloved son, who has gone to Pylos and to Lacedaemon to find out news of his father. They are only waiting for his return. Zeus Cloud-gatherer answered, My dear child, what in heaven do you mean by that? Was not the whole thing your own notion? Didn't you want him to come home that way and take his vengeance? As for Telemachus, you can easily manage to bring him back safe and sound, and let the plotters just sail home again. Then he called to his son Hermes, and said, Hermes, you are my messenger, and here is an errand for you. Go and declare to Calypso our unchangeable will that Odysseus shall return after all his troubles. But no god shall go with him, and no mortal man. He shall build a raft, and a hard voyage he shall have, until after 20 days he shall come to land on Scheria, the rich domain of our own kinsmen, the Phaeacians. The Phaeacians. We looked that one up before. It's Phaeacians. Phaeacians. No, it's Phaeacians. The rich domain of our own kinsmen, the Phaeacians. They shall honor him like a god in the kindness of their hearts, and they shall escort him in one of their ships to his native land. They shall give him plenty of gold and bronze and heaps of fine clothing, more indeed than he could have brought from Troy as his share of the spoils if he had come home without mishap. For this is how he is destined to return to his tall house and his native land, and to see his friends once more. The king's messenger was ready, as he had been when he brought death to the watcher Argos. We've got a little footnote here for Argos. What happened there? Zeus had fallen in love with a girl, Zeus had fallen in love with a girl, Io. Hera turned her into a heifer, and that's, I think, some sort of cow or cattle, and put her in the charge of Argos, who had eyes all over his body. Zeus sent Hermes to get Argos out of the way. He charmed Argos with his magic staff, and put all his eyes to sleep, then killed him. Hence, he is called Argifontes. Argifontes. They're just gonna footnote this whole little subplot in here. Zeus had fallen in love with a girl, Io. Hera turned her into a cow and put her in the charge of Argos, who had eyes all over his body. Zeus sent Hermes to Argos out of the way. He charmed Argos with his magic staff and put Argos to sleep and then killed him. Hence he is called Argifontes. Okay. So Hermes did that. Hermes, he brought death to the Watcher Argos. I guess he's the Watcher because he's just made of eyes, apparently. Makes sense. He put on his fine shoes, those golden, incorruptible shoes which used to carry him over moist and dry to the ends of the earth. Swift as the breath of the winds, he took up the staff which lays a spell on men's eyes if he wills, or wakens the sleeping. Holding this, Argifontes flew away and strong. Oh, okay, so Hermes is called Argifontes because I guess because he killed him, so he gets this cool name because he killed Argos. Hermes does. He's called Argifontes now. Cool. Holding this, Argifontes flew away swift and strong. One step on Pieria. We'll call it Pieria. Pieria. We'll call that Pieria. Chat, what do we think? Pieria? We'll call that Pieria. One step on Pieria, and he swooped from the upper air upon the deep. Then he skimmed the waves like a seagull, which hunts fish in the dangerous inlets of the barren sea, and dives into the brine with folded wings. Such was the shape of Hermes as he rode on the rippling waves. When at last he came to that far-off island, he left the blue sea and passed over the land until he reached the great cave where Calypso lived. He found her in the cave, with her beautiful hair flowing over her shoulders. A great fire blazed on the hearth, and the burning logs of the cedar and juniper wafted their fragrant scent far over the island. Calypso sat within by her loom, singing in a lovely voice and shooting her golden shuttle to and fro. A thick coppice of trees. Coppice. That's just a regular English word that I've never seen before. Perfect. A thick coppice of trees grew round the cave, alder and aspen and sweet-smelling cypress. There the birds would sail to rest on their outspread wings, owls and falcons and long-tongued sea ravens, who busy themselves about the waters. Over the gaping mouth of the cave trailed a luxuriant grapevine with clusters of ripe fruit, and 4 rills of clear water ran in a row close together, winding over the ground. Beyond their soft meadows thick with violets and wild celery, that was a sight to gladden the very gods. King's messenger Argifontes stood still, and gazed about him with deep content. Then he went into the cave, and Calypso knew him as soon as she saw him, for all those of the divine race know one another when they meet, even if they live a long way off. But Odysseus was not there. He was sitting in his usual place on the shore, wearing out his soul with lamentation and tears. Damn. But Odysseus was not there. He was sitting in his usual place on the shore, wearing out his soul with lamentation and tears. Calypso gave him greeting. "My dear Hermes, this is an honor, with your golden rod and all. What has brought you here? You do not often pay me a visit, but you are heartily welcome. Tell me what you want. I am glad to do it if I can, and if it is doable. But do come in. Let me entertain my guest." With these words, she led him to a seat that shone with diligent polishing. and set a table beside him with a dish of ambrosia and a cup of red nectar. The royal messenger ate, he drank, he enjoyed a hearty meal, and then he answered her question. You ask me what brings me here, as one god to another. Very well, I will tell you the whole story. As you ask. Zeus sent me here. I did not want to come here. Who would want to travel all that distance over the salt water? No end to it. And no city of mortals anywhere near to provide a god with sacrifice and a handsome feast? But no god can shirk or baffle the will of Zeus Almighty. That is quite impossible. He says there's a man here, one of those who were 9 years fighting before Priam's town, and the most unlucky of them all. It took them 10 years to capture that city. Then they set out for home. But on the way they offended Athena, and she raised a bad wind and a heavy sea against them. All his good comrades were drowned, but he, as it seems, was carried here by winds and waters. That's the man, and the orders are to send him away at once, for it is not his fate to perish in this place far from his friends. It is decreed that he shall see his friends again, and return to his tall house and his native land. Calypso shivered, and she broke her mind plainly. Calypso shivered, and she spoke her mind plainly. A hard-hearted lot you are, you gods, and as jealous can be. Why are you shocked if a goddess sleeps with a man and makes no secret of it, when she happens to find one she could love as a husband? It is always the same. When blushing dawn chose Orion, all you gods were shocked. You live as you like yourselves. Yeah, haters are gonna hate. Haters are gonna hate. Even the immortals got haters. You live as you like yourselves, but you would not rest until Artemis let fly one of her gentle bolts and killed him in Ortygia. Oh, so she's lost a lover as well, it seems, at the hands of Artemis. Her holiness on that golden throne. Then Demeter, sounds like a name of some god, Demeter. Then Demeter had a fancy for Iasion. These names. Names I don't feel so bad about getting wrong because, everyone's got different ways of pronouncing name stuff, but some of them look so easy, but you could be so wrong. Iasion, Ashian. Wait, where the heck am I? Then Demeter had a fancy for Iasion and pleased herself, made her love bed on the furrows of the plowland. Zeus heard of it in no time, and killed him dead with a fiery thunderbolt. So you gods are all shocked at me now, because there's a mortal man with me. I saved the man when he was straddling across a ship's keel, all by himself, after Zeus had sent another fiery thunderbolt at him and smashed the ship to pieces in the middle of the sea. All his crew were drowned, and the winds carried him here. I loved him and cherished him, and I did think I would make him immortal like myself. But since it is impossible for any god to shirk or baffle the will of Zeus Almighty, let him go to the devil over the barren sea, if that is the command of his mightiness. I will not give him a passage home. I have no ships and no sailors to carry him over the broad back of the sea, but I will gladly advise him and help him to get home. Hermes answered, All right, let him go now. And don't forget the wrath of God, or he may be angry with you one fine day. These gods. Or he may be angry with you one fine day. So Argophantes departed, having delivered his message, and Calypso went in search of Odysseus. She found him sitting upon the shore. The tears were never dry in his eyes. Life with its sweetness was slowly trickling away. He cared for her no longer. At night he was forced to sleep by her side in the cave, although the love was all on her part, and he spent the day sitting upon the rocks or the sands, staring at the barren sea and sorrowing. Calypso came up to him and said, "Poor old fellow. Please don't sit here lamenting any more. Don't let yourself pine away like this. I'm going to send you off at once, and glad to do it. Come along. Cut down trees. Hew them into shape. Make a good broad raft. You can lay planks across it, and it shall carry you over the misty sea. I will provide you with bread, water, red wine, as much as you like. You need not starve. I'll give you plenty of clothes, and send a fair wind behind you to bring you home safe and sound. If it so please the gods who rule the broad heavens, who are stronger than I am both to will and to do." As she said this, the ever-patient man shivered, and he said plainly, okay, so this is the first time we're hearing from Odysseus. Pretty cool spot here. The ever-patient man shivered, and he said plainly, "I am sure there is something else in your mind, goddess, and no kind send-off for me, when you tell me to cross the great gulf of the sea on a raft. That is a difficult and dangerous thing, even for well-built ships, although they sail swiftly enough when they are blessed with a good wind from heaven. And I should not care to embark on a raft without your good will, not unless you could bring yourself to swear a solemn oath that you will not work some secret mischief against me." The beautiful goddess smiled, and stroked him with her hand, saying, "Ah, you are a wicked man, always wide awake, or you would never have thought of such a thing. Now then, I swear by heaven above, and by earth beneath, and the pouring force of Styx, that is the most awful oath of the blessed gods, I will work no secret mischief against you. No, I mean what I say. I will be as careful for you as I should be for myself in the same need. I know what is fair and right. My heart is not made of iron, and I am really sorry for you." Then she led him briskly to the great cave. They went in together, the goddess and the man. He took the seat which Hermes had just left. She laid the table with food and drink, everything which mortal man can eat, and sat opposite while the maids brought her nectar and ambrosia. Gotta find out what ambrosia is. There certainly is a lot of it going about. They took what they wanted, and when they had had a good meal, the beautiful Calypso spoke first. Prince Odysseus Laertiades. Laertiades. We'll figure out how to say Odysseus' last name one day. Prince Odysseus Laertiades. Now is the time to show your famous cleverness. So you want to go home at once? Well, I wish you luck all the same. If you knew what troubles you will have before you get to Ithaca, you would stay where you are and keep this house with me, and be immortal, however much you might want to see your wife whom you long for day in and day out. Is she prettier than me? I think not. I don't think it likely that a mortal woman would set herself up as a model of beauty against a goddess. Oh, shots fired. Odysseus knew what to say to that, and he answered at once, "Gracious goddess, don't be cross with me. I know all that as well as you do. My wife is nothing compared to you for beauty. I can see that for myself. She is mortal. You are immortal, and never grow old. But even so, I long for the day of my homecoming, and if some god wrecks me again on the deep, I will endure it, for I have a patient mind. I have suffered already many troubles and hardships in battle and tempest. This will be only one more." Ooh. As he spoke, the sun went down, and the darkness came, and these two lay down in the corner of the lofty cave, and enjoyed their love together. When dawn showed her rosy fingers through the mists, Odysseus put on a tunic and cloak, and the nymph a silvery wrap, with a golden girdle under it round the hips and a veil over her head. Then she began to help Odysseus in his work. She gave him a good handy axe of bronze, double-edged, with a well-fitted handle of olive wood, and an adze. That's just a regular English word that don't know. And an adze with a smooth shaft, and led him to the end of the island. There was a coppice of tall trees, long since dry and sapless and easy to float, alder and aspen and pine trees high as the sky. When she had shown him the trees, Calypso went back, and he began to fell them. He worked fast, and soon cut down 20 trees, then trimmed them with the axe, shaped them neatly, and made them true to the line. Then Calypso brought him a boring tool, and he bored holes and fitted the spars together, making them fast with pegs and joints. He made his craft as wide as a skillful shipwright would plan out the hull of a bluff ketch. He fixed ribs along the sides and decking planks above, and finished off with coppings along the ribs. He set a mast in her, and fitted a yard upon it, and he made also a steering oar to keep her straight. All round he ran bulwarks of wattle to keep the water out, and threw brushwood into the bottom. Then Calypso brought him cloth to use for a sail, and he made that too. Stays and halyards and sheets he made fast in their places, and dragged her down to the shore on rollers. In 4 days he had finished the whole, and on the 5th Calypso saw him off, after she had bathed him and clothed him in garments scented with juniper. She did not forget a skin of red wine, and another large one full of water, with provisions in a bag, tasty stuff and plenty of it. And she sent with him a fair wind, friendly and soft. Odysseus was glad of that wind as he set his sail, and sat by the stern oar steering like a seaman. No sleep fell on his eyes, but he watched the Pleiades. The Pleiades? But he watched the Pleiades? That's probably Pleiades, right? Pleiades. Although it doesn't have the little accent over the E. May not be D's. But he watched the Pleiades and the late setting Wagoner and the Bear, or the Wagon, as some call it, which wheels round and round where it is, watching Orion, and alone of them all never takes a bath in the ocean. Who's he talking about? Oh, these are stars. Maybe these are stars, constellations. Yep. Late settling Wagoner, and the Bear, or the Wagon as some call it, which wheels round and round where it is, watching Orion, which is another constellation, I guess. And alone of them all never takes a bath in the ocean. Calypso had warned him to keep the Bear on his left hand as he sailed over the sea. Yeah, so they're talking about stars. 17 days he sailed over the sea, and on the 18th day he approached the nearest point of the Phaeacians. On the 18th day he approached the nearest point of the Phaeacian. Point of the Phaeacian country, with its shady uplands. The island looked like a great shield lying upon the misty deep. But the Earthshaker was now on his way back from the Ethiopians, and caught sight of him in the distance from the Solomon Hills. It's got to be Solomon. I mean, like, what else can it be? He fell into a royal rage, and shook his head as he cried out, "Damn it all! The gods have changed their mind about Odysseus, as soon as I was out of the way. And there he is, close to Phaeacia. And there he is, close to Phaeacia, where he is fated to find the end of the tribulations which afflict him. But I promise that I will yet give him a good run of bad luck." Then he gathered the clouds, and stirred up the deep with his trident. He roused all the tempestuous winds, and covered in clouds both land and sea. Night rushed down from the heavens. East wind and south wind dashed together, west wind blowing hard, and north wind from the cold heights, rolling up great billows. Odysseus felt his knees tremble, and his heart fail, and in despair he spoke to his own strong spirit. "How unlucky I am! What will be the end of all of this? I fear what the goddess said was true. She said I was to have trouble in full measure before I could see my native land. And here it is all coming true. What clouds are these that Zeus has brought over the broad heavens? How he has stirred up the deep, how all the winds come sweeping upon me. Now my destruction's a safe thing. Thrice blessed were my countrymen, 4 times blessed indeed, who perished on the field before Troy to please the royal house of Atreus. I wish I had died there, and found my fate on that day when a host of enemies were casting their sharp spears at me over the dead body of Achilles. Then I should have had burial, and my countrymen would have spread my fame. Now I am doomed to die an ignominious. That's just another English word. Ignominious death. Now I am doomed to die an ignominious death. As he said this, a great wave rolled up, towering above him, and drove his vessel round. He lost hold of the steering oar and fell out into the water. The mast snapped in the middle as the fearful tempest of warring winds fell upon it. Sail and yard were thrown from the wreck. He was kept long under water, and he could not get clear, for his clothes weighed him down. But at last he came up, spitting the bitter brine out of his mouth, while it ran down streaming off his head. For all this he did not forget his raft, exhausted as he was, but he made a dash after it through the seas, and caught hold, and sat in the middle to save his life if he could. Round and round it went on the waves, as the north wind in autumn rolls up lumps of thistles and carries them over the fields, so that winds blew the raft round and round over the water. Another little footnote here. Let's just check in here. Little asterisk beside the water. Over the harvested fields grew thistles tall as a child, but now yellow and dried and dead. The wind snapped them off at the hollow roots, and pitch poled their branching tops along the level ground, thistle blowing against thistle and interlocking spines, till in huge balls they careered like runaway haycocks across the fallow. Why? I guess they're trying to just give context to the north wind. Autumn rolls up lumps of thistles and carries them over the fields. Okay. Carries them over the fields so that winds blew the raft round and round over the water. Now the south wind tossed it to the north wind. Now the east wind passed it to the west wind in turn. But Ino saw him. She was a daughter of Cadmos, and a beautiful creature. Once a mortal who spoke with human voice, now she is Leucothea. 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 Now she is Leucothea, the white sea goddess, to whom the gods have given that honor in the salt deeps. She pitied Odysseus as he was buffeted about in this miserable way. Like a great shearwater, she rose on the wing from the waves, and perching on the wreck, she said, "Poor Odysseus, you're odd, I see." What? Poor Odysseus, you're odd, I see. True to your name. Oh my god. Is that like a god dad joke? Like, what is that? Poor Odysseus, you're odd, I see. True to your name. Yeah, the footnote. There is a pun on Odysseus. Yeah, okay. Cool. Why does Poseidon Earthshaker knock you about in this monstrous way, and persecute you so much? But he will never destroy you, although that is what he wants to do. Well, this is my advice, and I think you should have sense enough to take it. Strip off your clothes, and let the raft go roaming. Take to the sea and swim, and you may get your grip on Phaeacian land, since it is ordained that you shall find safety there. Here, take this veil and stretch it under your chest. It is a divine thing, and while you have it, there is no fear that you will drown or come to any harm. When you have your hands fast on the land, take it off and throw it back into the sea as far as you can, but turn your face away as you do it. Then the goddess gave him the veil, and dived back herself into the sea, like a great shearwater, and the dark waves covered her. But Odysseus was left in doubt, how much he had endured patiently already, and he was angry as he said to himself, "More trouble for me. I can't help thinking that some god or other is weaving another snare when she tells me to leave the raft. At all events, I won't do it yet. She said I should get ashore there, but the land was a long way off when I caught sight of it. Well, I know what I'll do. This seems the best thing. As long as these sticks hold together, I'll stick to them, and make the best of my hard luck. But if the sea smashes them up, I'll swim for it, since I cannot see anything better to do." While these thoughts were passing through his mind, Poseidon Earthshaker brought up another great wave, a terrible great mass that curved over him and drove him along. Planks and spars were scattered as a strong wind catches a heap of dry straw, and scatters it over the ground. Odysseus straddled across one spar, as if he were riding a horse, and stripped off his clothes, all he had left of the gifts of kind Calypso. He fastened the veil under his chest, and fell flat on the water, with arms spread abroad to swim. The mighty Earthshaker saw him, and nodded his head, as he said to himself, "That's right. You have a good lot of troubles already, and now you may go tossing about on the water and get ashore if you can. Even if you get there, I don't think you will be able to complain of having less than your share of trouble." With these words, he whipped up his horses. They shook their manes, and carried him to Aigai. Carried him to Aigai. Agi? Carried him to Agi, where his famous palace was. Now it was the turn of Athenia, the daughter of Zeus, and this was her plan. She tied up the courses of all the other winds, and commanded them to rest and be quiet. But she went a steady wind from the north, and broke down the waves in front of Odysseus, that he might make his way to Phaeacia, and save himself alive. After that, he tossed about for 2 nights and 2 days on the rolling waves, always looking for death. But the 3rd day broke with rosy streaks of dawn, and when the light was full, the wind fell, and there came a breathless calm. Odysseus lifted high on a great swell, took a quick look forward, and there close by he saw the land. As a father's life is welcome to his children, when he has been lying tormented by some fell disease, and in his agony long drawn out, the hateful hand of death has touched him, but God has given relief from his troubles. No less welcome to Odysseus was the sight of earth and trees, and he swam on, longing to feel his feet on solid ground. When he came near enough for a man's voice to carry, he could hear the dull sound of the sea breaking upon the rocks. The great waves were crashing against a rough coast, and belching up terrific showers of spray which covered the cliffs in a mist. For there was no harbor for a ship, and no roadstead, nothing but bluffs and crags and headlands along that shore. Then Odysseus felt his limbs grow weak, and his heart failed within him. Dauntless though he was disturbed and said to himself, "My trouble is not over yet. Zeus has granted me to see the land, which I never hoped to see. Now I have come to the end of my journey over all that immeasurable gulf. But there is no way to get out of the water. No way to get out of the water. Sharp reefs outside, roaring surges all round, a smooth cliff running up straight with deep water along the shore. Nowhere to stand on my 2 feet and find safety. If I try to get out, I suppose the swell will catch me and dash me on the sharp teeth of some rock. Then much good will it do me to try. If I swim along the coast, on the chance of finding a bay and a sloping beach, I am afraid the gale may catch me again and carry me out into the deep sea, and that will be a bad job. Or luck may send me a monster out of the sea. Amphitrite. Amphitrite is famous for monsters. I know the Earthshaker has an odd dislike for Odysseus. Hello, another pun. Another pun on his name. Odysseus speaks all through with a grim humor and never loses his self-possession. What's the pun there? Oh. Amphitrite is famous for monsters. I know the Earthshaker has an odd dislike for Odysseus. They're punning in the Odyssey. Amazing. As these thoughts passed through his mind, the swell carried him against the rocky shore. Then his skin would have been torn off, and all his bones broken, if Athena had not put a thought into his mind. He flung himself upon a rock and caught hold with both hands, and clung there groaning, until the wave had passed on. That time he saved himself, but the backwash rolled up upon him again, and carried him far out into the sea. When you drag a squid out of its hole, you may see a lot of little stones sticking to the suckers. That is what his strong hands looked like, with rags of skin and flesh, and bits of rock along the fingers, when the wave swallowed him up. And then Odysseus would have perished, fate or no fate, if Athena had not put prudence into his mind. He got clear of the line of breakers foaming upon the shore, and swam along outside, keeping his eye on the land, in case he could see a bay and a sloping beach. On he swam, until he came opposite the mouth of a river, and glad he was to see it. That seemed a good place, as there were no rough stones, and it gave some shelter from the wind. He saw the river pouring into the sea, and prayed to the river god in his heart. "Hear me, Lord, whoever thou art. How I have longed for thee, and now I pray to thee, save me from Poseidon's threats. Pity a homeless man. Even the immortal gods might pity one who comes as I come now, to thy stream and thy knees, after much tribulation. Have mercy upon me, Lord. I throw myself upon thee." Then the river stayed his flowing, and held back the wave, and made calm before him, and brought him safe into the mouth. He sank on his 2 knees, and let his strong arms fall, for the sea had worn him out. All his body was swollen, and the salt water bubbled from mouth and nostrils. Breathless and voiceless he lay, in a faint and awful weariness overcame him. When his breath came back by and by, and his spirit rallied again, the first thing he did was to unwind the goddess's veil. He dropped it into the river as it ran murmuring seawards, and the swell carried it back, until Ino quickly received it into her kind hands. So Ino's there's this other goddess here, Ino. Until Ino quickly received it into her kind hands. Odysseus crawled up out of the river and sank down on the rushes and kissed Mother Earth. Then, deeply moved, he spoke to his own brave heart. "And now, what will become of me? What will be the end of all of this? If I keep watch all this wretched night by the riverside, I think hard frost and drenching dew together may be too much for me after that fainting fit. And the wind blows cold towards dawn. If I should climb the hill into the dark forest and lie down in a clump of bushes to have a good sleep and get rid of this chill and weariness, I am afraid I may be just something for wild beasts to eat and play with. But after thinking it over, the last plan seemed the best. So he entered a coppice which he found close to the river, with a clear space round it. There he crawled under a couple of low trees, which were growing close together out of one root, a wild garden olive and a blackthorn. So thick and close they grew that no damp wind could blow through, nor could the sun send down his blazing rays, nor could rain penetrate. Odysseus crept into this thicket, and found there was plenty of room for a bed, so he scraped up the leaves with his bare hands, for there were plenty there, enough to shelter 2 or 3 men in the wildest winter weather. Imagine the delight of Odysseus when he saw this place, after all his troubles. Down he lay in the middle, and heaped the leaves over his body. So there was Odysseus, lying under the leaves, like a smoldering brand which someone has buried under black ashes far away in the country, with no one living near. That is how he keeps the seed of fire, or else he would have nowhere else to go for a light. Or else he would have to go elsewhere for a light. And Athena shed sleep upon his eyes, and closed the 2 eyelids, that he might quickly rest from his weariness after sore tribulation. Well, very fun, very interesting. Let's hear it for Odysseus, eh? Got off that island. Wasn't an easy journey. Tempestuous winds and waters. Sent his way by gods and the gods just can't be decided. Some want to help him, and then some are just saying like, hey, nope. We're not done having our fun with Odysseus. We're gonna give him some more stuff to play with. Yeah. So he's off the island, and now, hang on. So where did he end up exactly? It was to Phaeacia. So he's on the shores of Phaeacia. That's right, Phaeacia. Where it was said that he would arrive. So there he is now. Okay. Phaeacia. Fantastic. All right, so that does it for Book 5. Part 5, Chapter 5 of the Odyssey by Homer. And next time we will be jumping into Book 6, how Odysseus appealed to Nausicaa, and she brought him to her father's house. Okay. Odysseus putting it about a bit, trying to get home. The next one leg of his journey is over, another begins. And that will be next time, Book 6. Thank you for sticking around with us for Book 5. It was very cool. It looks like the Odysseus arc will continue in the next book, and that's where we will pick up next time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming along this voyage, and yeah, we'll see you for Part 6 next time.